Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube NFL segment, I'm going to be giving you my recap of the 2020-2021 NFC wildcard game between the Chicago Bears and the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans prevailed 21-9. They dominated pretty much throughout the game. It was somewhat competitive in the first half. The Saints broke away later in the game, but the Bears, I mean, they got a conciliatory touchdown by Jimmy Graham at the end of the game, basically when time expired, and Jimmy Graham just walked out right after he made the touchdown reception. Ironic, considering I believe he played for the Saints for a number of years and was on the receiving end of many touchdown passes from Drew Brees. Now, oddly enough, New Orleans, the Bears actually won the turnover battle because the Saints turned it over one time. Bears did not turn it over at all in the game, but really one of the big disparities in this game was that New Orleans outrushed Chicago Bears 123-48. You're talking about nearly three to one difference in terms of rushing yards between the Saints and the Bears. The Saints actually, as far as their yards per rush go, they still only averaged 3.5 yards per rush, but they were still able to ground and pound. I think that was one of the big differences in this game. And also, the Saints did dominate time of possession. They had the ball for nearly 39 minutes, and the Bears had it for about 21 minutes in this game. The Saints got it going in the second half, and they would have won it 28-9, but there was a controversial call, near the end of the game with around 2.5 minutes left or so, and it looked like the Saints. Drew Brees ran a quarterback sneak, and it looked like the ball may have been in and may have actually touched the tip of the ball, may have crossed the goal line, but it was ruled it was not ruled a touchdown. And the Bears took over on downs, and they drove the ball like 99 yards for that touchdown. You're wondering where was that during the rest of the game. I mean, they ran it. Now, it seems like a lot of times players play better when they really, when they really feel they gotta get the score. I know there's that touchdown they got didn't make a difference in the outcome of the game, of course, but it was like they wanted to get make the game look a little more competitive, I think. So they were definitely going to drive and try to get a touchdown before time expired, and I understand that. But another thing, I looked at Allen Robinson did not play poorly for the receiver for the Bears. But the thing about it is, looking at this, it appears that as far as the red zone offense goes, the Saints got converted 3 times out of 4. They got touchdowns on 3 of those possessions out of 4 in the red zone. It's very good. 75% red zone TD percentage they had this game. Now, and the thing was, the Bears were held. As far as I'm trying to see so I got to see the total yards in this game and see if I could bring that up. I'm trying to see what that was. But the thing about it is, looking at the total yards, now the Saints outgained the Bears 385-239 this game, but the Bears only had like about 140 yards total offense before that final drive. So the stat for that is a little deceptive, but they still, the Saints still outgained the Bears by nearly 150 yards. The Saints ran a total of 75 plays in the game to the Bears 49. The Bears were just for most of the game very inept on offense. The only thing, though, was that Mitch Trubisky, he threw a pass which could have been very easily a touchdown pass, but one of the receivers, looked like it was right in his breadbasket, went right through his hands, and that could have maybe changed the complexion of the game to some degree, because you would have talked, and if they had gotten that touchdown, the final score may have been 21 to 16, and maybe the Bears would have actually, they would have might have come a lot closer to actually winning the game. But the thing was, when you have when you look at teams like the Bears, who have basically mediocre season, you're talking about the Saints, a perennial powerhouse who finished 12, who finished this season at really one of the better teams in the NFL. This was a team that it really, when you talk about the disparity between like a mediocre team like the Bears and a perennial powerhouse like the Saints, what it comes down to is a lot of times just these little plays, a catch here and there, or it could be penalty. The Bears, I mean, they had they had more penalties on them than the Saints in this game. The Bears had, in this game, they were penalized 9 times for 50 yards. The Saints 4 times for 20 yards. And the thing is, this is and there was one play in the game where it looked like the Bears were going to make a stop on the Saints, and they would have made the Saints turn over on downs, but they committed a false start penalty, and the Saints were able to sustain the drive, and they were able to keep it going, and that did and helped the Saints in this particular game as far as ultimately the outcome of the game. So really, there's not much more to say, and this is really not much analysis, because this was a game totally dominated by the New Orleans Saints. It's 21-9 game, though. Is not what I would say subjugation, but it was definitely decisive win, because that last touchdown was conciliatory. The game was already basically in hand. It just made it look a little more competitive than actual, but it really wasn't. It was somewhat for the first half, but in the second half, it was complete domination by the New Orleans Saints. Generally, I'm noticing when you have games when you're playing a great team against maybe a mediocre team or good team, basically. I've seen on a number of occasions where you'll see the game fairly close in the first half, but the better team seems to pull away at the end, and maybe the Saints will actually be able to get to the Super Bowl this season. They are definitely, I would say, between them and Green Bay, they are it could be consensus favorites for many. I would say it's pretty safe to say it would likely be between them and the Green Bay Packers. They would be the favorites, I would imagine, in the to come out of the NFC to be in for the Super Bowl. And I think the Saints. The Saints definitely have as good a chance as anybody. They're going to be playing Tampa Bay next week, and many of you may remember the last time the Saints played Tampa Bay, they simply annihilated them. I'm sure there's going to be adjustments by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in this matchup. It probably will be fairly competitive, I would say. But one thing's for sure, and it's nothing against the Saints, that they will have to play better in this next game against Tampa Bay in order to beat them. I understand they gave the Buccaneers a drubbing previously this season. They swept the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this season. But, I understand the Saints could have actually won 28-9 if they actually got that touchdown call that was controversial at the end of with about 2.5 minutes left or so. That touchdown, the non-touchdown call, which could have gone either way, which was ruled not a non-touchdown by Drew Brees, saying the ball didn't break the plane. But still, the Saints beat the Bears. The final score, though, still 21-9. They beat the Bears by 12 points. That's not exact. When you look at a team, you're talking about the disparity in talent between the Saints and the Bears, and the fact that the Saints were home, you would have expected them to still ultimately win that game by a little bit more. At least, I would say at least by 17 points. I know it was a 12-point win, even 20-point win. Maybe really is what the Saints should have actually had, at least closer to a 20-point margin as opposed to a 12-point victory. And win's a win, but they just, but still, I mean, they got the W, but I do believe they would have to play better against Tampa Bay Buccaneers next week in order to beat them. Because keep in mind, Tampa Bay has actually, I mean, they have played very well in the last month or so. If I remember right, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were 7-5 at one time, and they were just kind of looking like, a team that might have just been a little bit, better than average. Then they reeled off 4 consecutive wins at the end of the season. They went 11-5. Then they won the playoff game against the Washington football team, winning 5 straight games. They'll be going into New Orleans on a little bit of a rampage. The Saints finished the season strong as well, but the Bucks have really looked good, and it should really be a good game. I don't expect it to be like 38-3 or whatever it was in the last time these teams play, as far as the Saints winning 38-3. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube NFL segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.